Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for coming today to this session. My name is Timo. I'm a product manager in Google Search, and I work on app indexing. And here with me, I have Fabian, who's a software engineer who also works on app indexing. We're very excited to talk to all of you about app indexing today. I'll start out with a quick overview of what app indexing is all about. I'll tell you a little bit how you can use Google Search to get more active users and to keep those users engaged. Then Fabian is going to talk a little bit how you can get started with app indexing. We'll conclude with a very exciting outlook of what we are going to do later this year around personal content with a couple of very exciting demos. Every day, users come to Google billions of times with their information needs. And that happens in many countries, more often on mobile than on desktop. Now, your app can be relevant to these billions of information needs. Your app content can help all of these users that come to us with various needs that they have. Now, the question is, how can you actually connect your app with all of those users and their needs? And that's what we're going to talk about today. Now, the answer is Firebase app indexing. Now, with app indexing, you can get your app and its content into Google Search. That means you can acquire new users, you can experience organic growth, and you can keep those users engaged. Now, one of the changes that we've announced this week is that app indexing is now part of Firebase. Firebase is a suite of integrated products designed to help you develop your app, grow a user base, and earn money. App indexing is one of 15 APIs that helps you, the developers, build amazing apps. We're in the Grow pillar, and that means that it can lead to more active users. Together with your app content and Google Search, we can delight all of those users that come to Google with various information needs. Now, who here today is familiar with app indexing? Awesome. It's a good number. So for those of you who are familiar with it, you'll find that Fabian has a couple of interesting changes to announce. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with it, don't worry about it. With Firebase, you have all the tools you need to get started at your fingertips. Now, next, let's talk about some of the products that we've built to help you grow your app and keep your users engaged. Now, let's start with growth and installs through Google Search. Now, here you can see on the search results page, we can help you get your app discovered. For very specific search intents, such as I/O 2016, we can show you results from apps such that you can install that app. For example, here, all I have to do if I wanted to install that app is tap on that green button. It goes to the Play Store, can download and install the app. If I have more generic information needs, such as Google Apps or racing games, we show multiple apps to choose from. Now, through app indexing, we can also help rank these types of results better. Now, having to install an app, though, creates a lot of friction between users and their needs, as well as your app content. Now, yesterday, Ali announced something really exciting at the keynote, which is instant apps. It's an amazing new experience that keeps user coming to your app faster. Now, instead of having to download an app first, they can simply tap on that result, and they go right into the app where they can find all the information that they need. Now, this will ultimately reduce this barrier that stands between the user and your app content. Next, let's talk a little bit about engagement and how Google Search can help you with that. Once an app is installed, we can organically open results from the search results page in your app. Here, for example, I search for I/O schedule. You can see there's a result from the app. All I have to do now is tap on it, and it goes right into the app, where I find all the information that I need. Through app indexing, again, we can help you rank those results better on the search results page. With the Google app, we've put the power of Google Search at our users' fingertips, for example, here with the search box on many Android phones on the home screen. All they have to do is tap on the search box, type in the query, and they're good to go. Earlier today, I looked up various sessions in the I/O app. Now, my own session included. Now, if I want to get back to that session, all I have to do is type in rules, which is the title of the talk, and I see a result appear here while I type in the Google app. Now, when I tap on this, it goes right back into the app, where I can find all the information, such as the stage, in session, etc. Now, the Google app helps re-engage users with your app content like this for thousands of apps. And it's really, really easy for users to just get right back in, because all they have to do is tap on that search box and tell us what they're looking for. Now, besides the search results page and the Google app, Google brings your app content to our users' fingertips in the form of Now on Tap Anywhere on Android. Here, Fabian told me about a new movie, Captain America, that we should check out. Now, all I have to do is tap and press the home button, and I get more information through Google Now on Tap. Here, I get the card for Captain America. You can see that there's a couple of app results as well. Now, these app results are there because these apps are using app indexing. Now, if I tap on the IMDb result, it goes right into the app, where I find all the information that I need. Now, that's really an amazing feature, because it puts your app content in front of the users anywhere where they are on Android. Now, let's talk about metrics a little bit. More than 10,000 apps are using app indexing to grow their app and keep their users engaged. But it includes most of the top apps that users use every single day all over the world. That translates to more than 200 billion app URLs in our search index, which is truly an amazing number. Let's look at some of the success stories of partners that are actually using app indexing. The Guardian saw an increase in CTR by almost 5% for app URLs over mobile web URLs. Etsy saw an increase in daily app traffic by almost 12%. And AliExpress saw an increased transaction value by 200%. Now, those are some truly amazing numbers that tell you how important app indexing is for these partners, and that any app really should use this technology to grow their user base and keep their users engaged. Now, with that, I'm handing it over to Fabian, so he can tell you all you need to know how to get started.
Thank you, Timo. So let's talk about what you need to do and how you can get started enabling all of these great features that we just saw working for your app. And as Timo outlined, the key is really to get your app into the Google search index. Because once it's in there, we can then surface results for your app in all these great places like Google Search, Now on Tap, the autocomplete feature. And we can bring users right into the relevant screen in your app. Over the last year, it's actually gotten quite a bit easier to index apps, so that's something we're really excited about. And you'll see that in a moment when I step through. There's 3 basic rules that you want to follow if you want to get this engagement and growth for your app. First, your app needs to support URLs so that you can actually link right into the right place. Second, you need to call our API so that we can actually better understand the content in your app. And 3, you want to make sure you can keep an eye on the impact you're getting from following the first 2 rules, right? How many more active users you're getting, and if there's still room for improvement, optimization in your app to get even more out of it. We'll step through these one by one in a second, starting with supporting URLs. Let's do a quick show of hands. Who here has an app or has worked on an app that supports URLs? Oh, great, about half. And how many of you have worked on app indexing specifically, so getting your app into the index? All right. Cool, excellent. So let's talk about URLs first. URLs were invented for the web, right? And so websites support URLs naturally. You have different web pages. Each one comes with their own URL. And that's what you see in the address bar at the top of your browser as you navigate the web. But for apps, it's a little less natural to support URLs. And we really have to think about and write specific code to actually handle URLs in our apps and make sure the right screen comes up when your app is started with a URL. But it's really very important to do that, right? Because when we want to find relevant content for our users, we don't want to just send them to your app, just launch the app, but we actually want to take them straight to the right place, right? So this is really one of the building blocks of app indexing. Next, there's a question of, if you have a URL like the one that's on screen here, how do you actually know that there's an app that can handle this type of URL? How do you know this might potentially link into an app? And how do you find out what that app might be? So we somehow need to link up the website with the app or with a set of apps that can also show that content. And it turns out in the web world, we actually have a very similar challenge where a web browser needs to find out what web server it should go talk to actually get the web page you want to look at, right? So when you type a URL into a browser, the browser uses something called the domain name system, or DNS, to resolve the domain name into an IP address, which basically tells it what server to talk to. And so that's worked really well for the web. And over the last year, we've actually seen a very similar system being established for resolving a domain name into a mobile app. And actually, it's two systems, one for Android and one for iOS. But they work very similarly, in fact, almost identically. And I'll step through how exactly it works in just a moment. What they do, these systems, is they allow you to create this connection, linking from your website to the app, and basically declaring, hey, this is the app, or this is the set of apps that can handle my URLs. And then also the other way around, have the app declare, what are the kinds of URLs I can handle. And then with this two-way connection, that's really then what helps us understand that space. So let's look at how this specifically works on Android, and then I'll go into iOS second. And I'll just continue to use the IO app as an example as I step through, because many of you might already have that installed on your phone today, and so you can actually check out some of these things right after the session yourself. And then also we'll be publishing the source code for the IO app later after the conference, so you can go see the implementation behind all of this. So every Android app has something called the Android manifest, and here's an example of the IO app's manifest, more specifically of the intent filter section. And that's where it declares that it can handle any URL in the domain events.google.com that starts with the path IO 2016/schedule/anything. And then there's this little attribute that you can see, auto-verify equals true. That's a very new attribute from API level 23 that tells us that we have this two-way connection set up, meaning that the system can go talk to the website, and the website will verify and confirm that, in fact, this is the app that it wants its URLs to link into. And also, if you add this attribute, what you'll actually get starting from Android 6.0 Marshmallow is that your app will be set as the default handler for these types of URLs right when it's installed. So that means that even the very first time a user taps on one of your URLs anywhere on their phone, be that a messaging app or the web or anywhere, they'll be taken straight to your app, and they won't get this disambiguation dialog that you might know that will ask you, do you want to open this in a browser or in this app? So that's another great benefit you get there. But for any of this to work, the server side has to also check out, right? The other connection, the other side of the connection. So how this works is you host a small JSON file at a predefined path on your website that refers back to the app by package name and certificate fingerprint. And that part is really important, right, for Google, for example, to understand that it's OK to link results from search for these types of URLs directly into this app, because that's something we really don't want to do unless we know, the website owner actually wants this traffic to go into this particular app, right, instead of the website. On the iOS side, we have something called entitlements as part of the app itself. And again, that's where you would refer to the domain for which the app can handle URLs. And on the server side, again, a small JSON file, different one, but similar in spirit, where you point back to the iOS app by iTunes ID. Again, a fixed, predefined path on your website where this goes. And you'll know an interesting difference here, actually, between the iOS and the Android system. With iOS, the path prefix that kind of defines what exact set of URLs the app can actually handle is defined with the server-side configuration file on iOS, while with Android, this is part of the app itself in the intent filter. So now you've got this two-way connection set up. And of course, you still have to write the code to actually bring up the right screen and so forth in your app. And I'm not going to go into details about that here. But at least now we have a clear system for finding the right app to link into, just given a URL. But until recently, actually, many of us have still been using custom URLs. And let me give you an example of what I mean. By custom URLs, I mean URLs that use a custom scheme, so not HTTP. This is an example of how this might look like for the I/O app and for a particular session. So these links are broken in several ways. So I wanted to take a moment to try to discourage you from using these as much as possible if you can at all help it. One of the issues here is that we do not have this system here, right, where we can somehow reliably resolve any part of this to an app. So it's really not exactly clear what app this should actually link into. And then also, it really doesn't work across platforms. So if you want to share this URL with a friend, send them a message, or post this on social media, you can't really, right? Because if your friend opens this on a mobile computer, or on a desktop computer, rather, then that's not going to do anything on a desktop computer. And so in these cases, you still have to then send a web URL, which works anywhere, because it opens the web page. But then if your friend does receive it on a mobile device, then now that's not going to go into the app, right? Even if they have the app installed. Because now you would first have to translate back from the web URL to the custom URL. And now you'd have to have like some sort of big mapping table or translation rule. So long story short, by using web URLs, HTTP URLs, you can actually sidestep a lot of these headaches. And so that's what I would recommend. But let's say your app does support HTTP URLs. So now you're ready to test. And if you want to just test your app in isolation, let's say maybe you haven't gotten the server-side file deployed yet. For Android, you can just launch your app from the Android debug bridge with a view intent and passing the URL you want to test out. And that should launch your app and get you straight to the right screen if you've done everything right. And then once you've got the connection in both ways established, if you have the little JSON file for Android or iOS or both deployed on the website, then the easiest way to test is probably to just send yourself a bunch of URLs in an email or something and just tap on them on your device. And then that should go straight into the right screen. And so that's all the basics that is required for your results to start showing up on Google. It might still take a day or two for us to actually pick it up and to start showing these results to users. So in the meantime, what you can do, you can check out our brand new preview tool. You can find this as part of our documentation. We just launched it earlier this week. You can enter any of your URLs, and we'll instantly show you a preview of how your results are going to look like on mobile for your users. So that's kind of cool. So with that, let's go on to the next slide and talk about the second rule. Calling the API. As a user uses your app and browses the content in your app, you can call the API with the URL and the title of the current screen. And that helps us better understand how your app works and what content is important to users. And that can actually also be an interesting signal for us to help rank these results on Google Search. And another place where this is really important is the autocomplete feature that Timo showed you earlier. Here we have very limited real estate on the screen. We can fit a max of maybe 5 or 6 results, tops. So we want to make sure to really show only the most relevant results. And so in this case here, just knowing that I've looked at my own session before in the I/O app that's a very strong signal for us that there's a high likelihood I might want to get back there, right? And that's important content for me. And so that's what we would show in autocomplete if I just type a few characters. And with one tap, I'll be right back in the app. And in terms of the code that we ask you to add for this, it should be fairly minimal. It can basically be distilled down to 3 lines per activity or per type of screen that you have. The first one is constructing the URL for the current session. Again, this is the example from the I/O app. Second, putting together the action object with the title and the URL that describes what is happening. And you see that we use the view action here. We also support other action types, such as listen or purchase or bookmark, depending on what it is the user does. But viewing will be one of the more common ones. And then third, you call the start method to indicate that the action is now starting. And there's a corresponding end method as well that would be called by the I/O app as you navigate away from the session details screen again. And if you have instantaneous actions in your app, like bookmarking something or purchasing something, then you can just call the end method straight away and be done with it. And to make it as simple as possible, to do this, we've added support to Android Studio. One of the things Android Studio will do, it'll tell you if there's any issues with both your implementation of URL support in general or your implementation of calling the API. And it'll also help you generate most of the code that you need to write to call the API, and it can also help you generate most of the intent filters. And then you can also test right from within Android Studio. We have a feature where we can essentially simulate linking into your app with a given URL. And Android Studio will show you what parameters were passed to the API in this instance, and then also show you a little preview of that page in your app. On the iOS side, the API is even simpler and a little bit more limited currently. We just ask that you add a single call when the app starts up to register the app on the device. And so now you already essentially know everything there is to get your app into the index. And now you really want to make sure it actually worked, right? And you're actually getting more active users, and you want to see if there's any issues or maybe what you can optimize and tweak to get even more out of this. So one thing you definitely want to do is track referrer traffic, meaning keep track of how many users find their way into your app through Google. And a way to make this simpler, to make this simpler for you, we've added this method getReferrer directly on the Android activity object a little over a year ago with API level 22. And you can think of it similar to the HTTP referrer header, right? It tells you where a user is coming from in terms of a URL. So in our example here, if a user is coming from google.com in a web browser, then the referrer will be google.com. And if the user is coming in through the Google app, which could be any of autocompletions or now on tap, all of these things, then the URL would be the second URL you see on screen here. The Android-app URL notation is just a way that we use to put both like a package name and the URL inside the app into one URL, so we can kind of package it all into one string. So if your traffic is coming from any of these two referrers, you know the user came in through Google, and you can log it accordingly in your analytics solution. If you don't have an analytics solution yet, by the way, you might have heard about this new offering also under the Firebase umbrella that we launched yesterday, Firebase Analytics, which offers unlimited reporting for free for your app. So that might be a strong candidate to consider here. And then from our side, we also offer some analytics. We have a tool called the Search Console that you can log into, and you can verify that you own a given app. And then we'll show you metrics on how many results are we showing for your app, how many clicks are these results getting, and also how many installs are happening as a result of people discovering your app on Google search. And that's basically it. So make sure to support URLs, and many of you already do. Second, call the app indexing API so we can better understand the content and we can better rank your results. And if you already support URLs in your apps, then this is really the only rule you have to follow in addition, basically. And then 3, make sure to log into the Search Console to see if you have any issues and to see the benefits that you're getting and what you might potentially be able to optimize further. You can find all of this and more at g.co/appindexing. But before you do that, I'm going to give it back to Timo for the exciting last part.
Thank you so much, Fabian. I hope everybody knows a little more now what it takes to get your app and its content into Google Search. Now I would like to talk about something very special that's going to come later this year that revolves around personal content. Now, so far, we've talked about how to get your public app content into Google Search so you can grow your user base and keep your users engaged. But every day, users all over the world interact with or create a lot of personal information, whether that's messages that you send or receive, documents that you create, playlists that you listen to, or photos that you take. Now, all of that data is really important for many, many different user needs that our users have every single day. For example, wouldn't it be amazing if I could just find that message from my best friend that talked about this awesome new sushi place to check out this weekend, just by typing a few characters? Would it be great to find this shopping list when I'm at the grocery store? Would it be awesome if I could just have in a few characters and get back to that playlist before my Sunday morning run? Now, your app content can help with many of these different user needs. And that's why we're excited to announce today that later this year, we're going to let you index personal content on Android. We're going to extend app indexing to let users find anything in their apps through the Google app. Now, when we designed this addition to app indexing, we sort of followed 3 core principles, which are privacy, control, and simplicity. First of all, personal app content stays on the device and doesn't leave the phone. That means that we will search over that data on the phone. Next, you as the developer will be in control over the lifecycle of that data. You determine when content gets indexed, updated, or removed. And finally, if we advance once more, there you go. We had simplicity in mind when we built this. Fabian already explained how easy it is right now to get that content into Google Search, just a few lines of code, and want to keep it as simple as that. All it'll take, just a few lines of code, and your personal content will be indexed on the phone. Now, let's look at some of the cool experiences that we could actually enable with that addition. We've worked with some very special partners in an early access program to demo some really cool use cases that this addition will be able to unlock. For that, I need a little bit of help from Fabian here. Hope you can see the screen. All right, I don't know whether... OK, fair enough. So my friend Henry sent me a message before telling me about a great session I should check out on Friday. Totally forgot the title for it. So let's see whether we can get back to that. All we have to do is tap on the search box here.
Oops.
Tap on the search box. And all we have to do is type the name. OK, it's too bright. I don't know whether we can adjust the... That's right. So what I want to do is find a message from my friend Henry where he's talking about this session I should check out. So all we have to do, as Fabian started to demonstrate, is type the name in the search box. And normally you see query completions for that. And instead what we will show is a contact card for that contact, as well as a message from that app. In this case, Henry sent that message through Viber. And all we would have to do is tap on the result, and it goes right into the app, where it can then read the message in that conversation.
Yes.
And now that seems to be better.
Yes? No?
OK, how about this? We just go for it, and then you just have to imagine that you see the right things on the screen.
We'll just do it like this.
OK, a little purple, that's good.
Yeah.
OK, anyway, Henry's telling me to check out Google's vision for machine learning, which is tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Sounds like a great talk. They should totally check out. Now, OK, this is going to be now really tricky, but All right, we need to go down a little bit to see what else we got there. There you see Google's vision. All right, going into the next one. If we go back to the home screen, now, by the way, who went to the concert last night? Awesome. It was amazing, wasn't it? Now, we happened to go as well, and Fabian sent me a message, actually, with a video that he took. Now, all we have to do is search for Fabian. There we see there's a messaging glide. Excellent. So all we have to do is tap on it, and let's see whether we can play that back. Looks like a lot of fun. Awesome. Now, going back to the previous message, tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., I remember I had breakfast planned with Adam. So again, let's try to find the message, because I've totally forgot the time. Again, we tap on it, search for Adam, and there it is. There's a message in LinkedIn. All we have to do is tap on it. We jump right into it, and there we go, 8 a.m. on Friday. Thank you. Now, 8 a.m., I guess I have to get up a little earlier tomorrow. Fair enough. I love eating yogurt for breakfast. The other day, I started reading an article that was called How Yogurt Affects the Brain, that I never finished reading, but I did save that one in Pocket. So now if I want to go back to it, all I have to do is type in part of the title, and we can tap on it. It goes right into the app, where I can then go ahead and read it on my way home tonight. Thank you, Fabian. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Now, these examples really show the power of that data and user needs. So through the Google app, we can let users find anything that they're looking for in the apps that revolves around their personal life with their personal data, all through the Google app by tapping on the search box, typing in a few characters, and they see your app content right there. And all of this will be powered through app indexing later this year. Now, here are the partners that we've worked with in this early access program. They've done an amazing job in enabling these experiences, and we're looking forward to working with more of you later this year. Now, if you're interested in this, have a look at this link here and share your interest with us. Later this year, we will follow up with more information around availability of this extension of app indexing. Now, quick summary. We showed that with app indexing, you can get more active users, you can grow your app, and you can drive re-engagement all through these various Google search features, such as the search results page, the Google app, Now on Tap, or Instant Apps. And Fabian explained 3 simple rules. That's all it takes to get your content into search. And later this year, you'll see some really cool features around personal content. Now, here's more information about both app indexing as well as Firebase. Come chat with us. We have various sandboxes, code labs, and other sessions. Happy to talk more with all of you. And with that, thank you all so much for coming. We hope you're as excited about getting your app into search as we are. Thank you.